Hello and welcome to the Friday Expert live stream. And apparently, I have a visitor with me on said. Oh my goodness, two of them. Hello, my children. Children, I am on the middle of a radio show right now. Let's go ahead and go downstairs. Come on, all the way downstairs.
Close your door before going live.
Go. All right. Fantastic. So that was fun. We have with us, welcome to the Friday Expert live stream. Now we're starting a bit late, but we have with us a incredible guest today, and I am so excited to be talking with her. When you are doing events as a nonprofit leader, you have often thought, well, it would be nice if I didn't just have to sell a bunch of tickets to this event, and I actually had somebody who would give me a big chunk of money. What about corporate sponsorship? But you might not really understand what it takes to actually get corporate sponsorship for your events. So here to smash the myths so that you can have smashing events is Roberta, and we're so glad to have her. So my first question for you is actually going to be, what of all of the things that you could have done with your life, you ended up doing corporate sponsorship? Why?
Because it found me. I started as an events planner, seeking funding for my events, and I learned to sell my events to companies. Now, I have a background prior to starting as an event planner. That too was accidental. I just wanted to help some students in my college, right? And wanted to plan an event for them. Uh, and then that turned into becoming an event planning business. So my background is B2B and B in business to consumer sales. So the natural thing is, how do I get money for my events? Sell my event. And I started going business to business, businesses in my community. They all said yes, they'll buy into my event in exchange for receiving visibility. At that time, I used to say, I'll bring you up close and personal with your target audience.
Interesting. So tell me about that. How important is it to bring a sponsor up close and personal with their target audience? Don't they just love what you do and want to give you money?
Absolutely not. So imagine if you and I were both planning an event. We both
Hey, Stephanie, welcome. Go ahead.
Money, right? The difference would be, again, you're saying, hey, sponsor, hey, company, give me money because I'm doing this great event and I want to feed people. Whereas I would come in and say, hey, company, I want you to give me money in exchange for bringing you up close and personal with your target audience. And this is how I'm going to do it, through PR, through promotion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, quantifying my ask.
So what does that look like to bring a company up close and personal with their target audience at your event? Is it just giving them a table and, allowing them to have their materials there? Is it just putting their logo on a banner? What does that actually look like?
Well, it varies. A table is good. You can use the table to generate leads. But I found that some sponsors are saying, listen, we have to put in the work, right? You're asking us for money, and then we find our table, and then we have to work it, and then we have to do this, and then we have to measure it, and nothing happens. And I just gave you $5,000, $10,000. And what if no one shows up? What happens? How do I get this money back? So if you are in a mindset of hands out donation, then that's fine. But with the sponsor, we're talking about how today you're using AI, we're using things like metaverse. You can get as creative as you want to be, or you can keep it traditional, placing QR codes at certain points in your event. You can give them a way to speak to your audience. We can use podcasts to give them more, not only visibility, but community relations. So there are many ways that you can actually return value to a sponsor.
So let's take us to where our audience is probably right now. So when you were planning your first event and that you got sponsorship for, talk to us about what was some of what you did really right, and what was some of the things that you learned later on that you wanted to do differently.
Great question. So what I did right from the very beginning, and this goes with sales, you are selling benefits, not so much, the features. Um, so benefits, again, going back to I am going to connect you with your target audience. So that allowed
Dig,
those.
dig into that though. Like, I know that's a standard sales phrase, but a lot of nonprofits have never heard it. Benefits versus features. What does it look like to sell benefits versus selling features?
Yeah, so sending the bill of benefits is what's in it for that company, that mom and pop store that I approach for funding before going to corporate brands. What's in it for them? So, for example, one record label who made music for one genre, what was in it for them is I said, listen, I have a different demographic that I'm going to place you in front of where you can now expand your reach, sell more of your music. So they saw that benefit rather than a feature, which would be just give me money. I know you make music and this is where you need to be. So the feature is really just only the music, but the benefit was like, I am going to expand your reach and bring you into a different demographic.
Okay, all right. So you sold kind of the benefits from the beginning when you were rocking this first event. Talk a little bit more about what you did right, and then maybe give us insight into some of the things you wish you'd done differently.
My goodness. So I'll tell you, one of the things for sure is I wish I would have learned how to keep my sponsors. When I started, I didn't call them sponsors. I used to, actually, I started saying invest. Would you invest in my event in exchange for receiving these types of benefits? With Tommy Hilfiger's change in perception, so would you invest? And they all said yes. So, well, actually, when I went to Tommy Hilfiger, by that time I already learned the lingo of sponsorship. So one thing I wish I would have done was keep my sponsor, so I don't have to look for money every event that I plan. Um, the
How do you do that? How do you? I mean, I know when people are putting on their first nonprofit event, or they're putting on one of their first events, they're not thinking about keeping. They're thinking about just getting people in the door. But once they have people in the door, once they've done a few events, how do you actually keep sponsors around?
keeping your word. That's
Mm.
one way of doing that. Showing them the value. For example, everything that you promise your sponsor, you activate it. If something unforeseeable happens, things happen, right? Error and just life just throws you these curveballs. Let your sponsor know immediately. Have that conversation. Um, I think the first thing for me is really keeping your word and showing them the value that you brought to the table. Show them today, and this has been going on for a very long time, even though it feels new. Show them the measurable results. This is how I changed the audience perception. This is how many people I fed. And it's, I know a lot of people get confused. It's like a fine line between the sponsorship and the donation or grants. It's a bit different because, for example, going back to whatever that set number is, let's use $10,000. We want to return more value, more. We want to return more than $10,000 in value.
Mm. Mm. Okay, that makes sense. So going back to kind of the one of the things that you wish you'd done differently was keep your
Yeah,
sponsors.
yeah.
Um, So, maybe offer. Do you offer a little bit less to make sure that you're going to deliver that value to that sponsor the first time, or do you shoot for the moon and just make sure you can deliver?
The first thing, make sure you can deliver.
Mm.
That's where we start. Because we don't want that sponsor to lose, right? After you deliver, now you start adding more value, maybe bringing in a partner that aligns with your event, simultaneously with the sponsors, um, audience as well, or the goal that they're trying to achieve. So let's start with returning that value and springboard into adding more value to that sponsorship.
So we've actually got a question from Stephanie. So I'm going to pull it up on screen. So, does sponsorship work the same as with regular donors? So, with a regular donor, you would keep them involved in the organization to a certain extent. So, if they gave you money, you would be like, come by and see the impact of your work. Like, come by and visit our offices. Come by and sit down with the people who you helped, right? You'd look to engage them in the ultimate outcome of the organization. Is it similar, or what does keeping sponsors engaged when you're not doing that event, afterward look like?
Well, put it first thing I would say, that's excellent. First thing, put it on paper. These are the deliverables. This is what I've done. This is the value. And yes, keep them engaged. This is how many people I've reached. This is how many people keep them engaged along the way so you can do that. Sign them back on, and even an upsell. Say, now I want to reach more people with, we need more money, we need what more resources, whatever it is, if we're talking about the in-kind sponsorship. So yes, do keep them engaged. And language is so important when you're talking with a seasoned sponsorship professional. So you don't want to use words like donors or even donation, for example, because then the response of the red flag is, listen, I am not about to get any type of profit from this. I'm not going to benefit this. I might as well just write this off. So language, I just want to insert that language is very important. And yes, do keep them in the loop.
Interesting. Okay. So, let's pivot a little bit and talk about, all right, so that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. Here's how to keep them engaged. About how to get them. Like, if you are, I've run into this problem, I don't know how many times with my clients, and several of them are going to listen to this later. So it'll be a great conversation for them. But they're putting on an event. They're not super well known in the community. And they don't need to raise a ton of money, 5 to 20K, something like that for their event. But they really don't know a lot of the bigger companies in the area, right? With smaller businesses, you can kind of walk up and introduce yourself and stuff like that. But if you walk up to Coca-Cola and try to introduce yourself, they're going to be like, yeah, try some other time. So, how is it that you build relationships with some of the bigger companies, the companies who could actually leverage some funds towards your event in a way that would be meaningful?
Yeah, same thing. You walk up to Coca-Cola and say, listen, can you introduce me to the person who oversees sponsorship? So you want to start at ground level, right? If you're able to walk in. Another way is we have good old AI, ChatGPT, who's the contact person at Coca-Cola. Or we can buy leads, right? Wherever you buy leads, you can buy them and then they'll give you the contact. Back in the day, it was making the phone calls. When I had Rite Aid as my event sponsor, just picking up the phone, I'm having this event, I would love to have you as a sponsor, so that the audience know that you're not only a pharmaceutical company, but you are also kind of like a staple in a community where you sell all these other stuff. You sell Hallmark cards for families, you sell candy, you sell, so we just want to highlight that. So, not only our grandparents want to walk into Rite Aid, but families want to bring, families want to come in and shop as well. Um, and so your question is,
Yeah, how do you go meet him, right? And
yeah,
you're
walk in. Yeah,
walk in. Okay.
walk in, AI, buy list, ask your coworker, maybe someone works at Coca-Cola, ask. Um, there, one thing p- one thing I do, not only say, but I do this for my clients. I start from ground zero. If I don't have the connections, then what I do, I start with at customer service, the 800 number. Can you transfer me to your corporate office? Can you give me the number to your corporate office? When you go online and you search, what is the phone number to Coca-Cola corporate office? Now, this is why it takes maybe 3 months, 3 months smaller, um, small to mid-sized companies, but corporate, if you are starting from zero contacts, like I have started when back in the day, then give yourself sufficient time, 6 months to even a year, to start the conversation, to build a relationship, because at times you get the correct person, but they may be out on maternity leave, or so it just takes time. It's a process.
Wow, that's really helpful. I think a lot of people are trying to like do gymnastics and figure out how to get in the door, and you're just like walk up right to the front door and knock, and just be patient because it might take them a while to get from the living room of their big house all the way to the door.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and there's something else you mentioned there that I thought was really interesting. You talked about how you were approaching Rite Aid, right? So you seems like you took a lot of thought before you reached out to someone about how they would benefit from that event. And last night we were doing a group coaching session, and one of our clients mentioned that they just get the heebie-jeebies when they go to contact sponsors, and they're like, "How do we overcome that?" And one of the suggestions was having some sort of a script, but there was some dissension on what to say. So like, how do you look at your approach to these sponsors when you're walking and knocking on the door? They open the door and you're like, hi, like probably for
I'm
half our clients, they're like, hi, I exist, I guess. What do you say when they open the door?
Hi, my name is Roberta Vigilance. I am having this event. I've captured your audience. This is what we're asking for as far as money, and this is what you will be receiving. Can I send you the full sponsorship proposal? I want them to know, hey, I'm not coming here for a handout. I am coming to you to bring value to you, and I want them to know what's the price range this way to save me time, save them time. Don't want to send that proposal and like, oh, we don't have this,
Mm,
right? And what's in it for them. But definitely, I want them to know that I have their audience, because I know they receive lots of proposals, and sometimes, it's like the audience, they don't align with them. So I want
mm.
them to know that I know my stuff, at least the pure basic. And then when they read that sponsorship proposal, they can see, oh wow, I am going to be at this event that has this many this much foot traffic, or whatever it is.
Stephanie wanted to say thank you for answering her question, by the way. So I'll pop that back up there.
Yes,
Um,
thank
so I have a question for you on what a good response rate is. But before I get to that question, we are at the middle of the
you.
broadcast. And of
Kathy,
course, if you've been
Dan, you
watching
sound like AI. It's choppy. What
I
do you think?
sound like AI. Okay. Let's see. Let me see. Let's cool down my computer a little bit. It's probably what's happening. Can you hear me? Do I sound good now?
No, it sounds, no, Sounds really computerized.
Interesting. Okay. Am I any better now?
I can hear you, but it's still choppy.
Weird. Okay, that might be a connection issue. But we'll roll with it best we can.
Okay, now
Uh,
it goes. That's
okay, good. Stephanie says on her side it's good. All right, cool. So I have a question to ask you, but
yep.
before I get to my question on response rate, it is the middle of the broadcast, and if anyone is used to watching these Friday Expert live streams, they know in the middle of the broadcast we do a giveaway. So Roberta, I'm super excited. What kind of giveaway do you have for our audience here, and how can they get it?
Absolutely. So I thought about this one, right? And when working with nonprofit versus for profit, it's the only difference is the lingo. Um, understanding sponsorship. In my book, I have a book that's called How to Secure Sponsors Successfully that walks you through the steps on how to secure sponsors. So there are three chapters in the book, three pillars. When you know this information, you're pretty much a genius. Understanding sponsorship is one. The second is communicating with sponsors. And the third is selling your event to sponsors. Now, the selling your event to sponsors is different when it comes to nonprofit versus for profit. And the only difference is the language, right? So for example, with a nonprofit, you can't continue to say, or I don't believe you can at all because you have to be IRS compliant. You can say, well, we will advertise your brand. You just can't, because if you're audited, then IRS sees like, listen, why are you doing advertisement for them? This is not what you do. So you have to be very careful how you use those words. So instead of giving out the book, I decided I'll do a sponsored strategy session. So they your audience can email me and we'll set up a time. And this is usually paid, but I'll do, cost on me and we'll do a sponsorship strategy session. We'll look at what they have and I'll get them in alignment to approach to be sponsor ready so they can approach the process successfully. Dan, you're muted.
That is an amazing offer, and I'm dropping what I believe is the link into the chat for them to go to your website and see that incredible offer. So that's the link, right? robertavigilance.com.
Yes, yes. And they can contact me on the contact page and just mention Dan, and I'll know it's you. And yeah,
Fantastic. So you have to remember my name, which is 3 letters, but I think you can do it. Go to robertavigilance.com, mention I almost want to be like coupon code Dan,
yes.
and go reach out. She will give you a free strategy session. I mean, this is incredible stuff. You're talking to someone with many, many years of experience who has really not been impressed by how flaky nonprofits have been in the past. So I'm glad that she's taken the time to come and join us and give us another chance. So do take advantage of that. It will be an incredible experience for you, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So thank you, Roberta, for that giveaway to our audience. We so appreciate you for that. And I will include that in the text that goes out after this stream is over.
I can do it. That's a good idea because I'm going to put this on the homepage. This strategy session, you'll see some feedback from some people who have worked with some of my clients, couple. But what I'll do is put this offer on the homepage, and yeah, they can use code Dan. I'll make it where anyone puts code Dan at checkout if they need to, they can.
Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. So back to the good content. So Roberta, I think one of the things, so when I was consulting people on how to create great volunteer programs before I kind of settled on individual fundraising, One of the things I used to say is, from my experience with volunteers, about 20% of people who sign up for your website and say, I want to volunteer, will actually become volunteers for your organization as a like good success rate that you're shooting for. And I think one of the things, and it always helped people because they were like, oh, I thought it was everybody who signed up was going to become a volunteer. No, if you're at 20%, you're good. So when you don't know anybody, when you're just starting to go knock on those doors, what's a good response rate? Are you looking at 1 in 10? Are you looking at 3 in 10? Like, when do I get discouraged? Is it 2 in 50, or is it 5 in 50? What's up?
You don't stop until you get it. It's out there. Um, you have to look at things at, like, is your approach solid? Are you approaching the right sponsor? Are you quantifying your ask? Are you asking for too less than giving a whole bunch of stuff, which makes comes off a bit shady, right? Like that, too good to be true, or are you asking for a lot and you're not giving enough? So, those are things that we would need to look at. But once you become a season, once you know your stuff, we're looking maybe at, out of five, you may walk away with three possible sponsors. But again,
Wow.
this is not, yeah, three, it could be four at two. And what determines that four, what brings it up to four, is the time, right? We're not trying to do this in, one sit-in.
Mm,
So it's time. If they don't come on this year, maybe the following event or the following year they'll come on. Just continue to build that relationship. And don't be afraid to ask for a referral. Right now I'm working with a client and I reached out to an old sponsor that told me no. And I think this opportunity is a good fit. Will they say yes this time? I don't know. But guess what? They know who Roberta Vigilance is. Right. So again, as the young lady who was on earlier, and she said, stay in contact with not only your sponsors, but with also with your prospects as well, so they know what's going on. Try
mm.
not to do that long gap. And if time has passed, it's okay. Reach back out. I try to keep it, as she mentioned, very simple. We keep it very human. I laughed at my mistakes at time, and just because I'm human error. And don't put all, let's just say, all the eggs in one basket. Diversify, spread yourself out. It doesn't only need to be corporate sponsors. Do look at the small to medium sized businesses. You may need to get four sponsors instead of one or two. So just pace yourself. You can come away with 5 out of 5 if you just pace yourself. But once you stop, then, you know, um, we know nothing is going to happen once you stop. If you
Then you're
continue
done.
to get no after no and after no, we know that is a hidden yes somewhere there, but you need to evaluate what you're doing and make sure that you're doing it correctly so that it can speed up the process and you can have that confidence and say, well, I know I'm doing the right thing. Just like in life, I know I'm doing the right thing. I don't know what's going on over there, but you find more and more and more. Because maybe it's not the right time. Maybe they don't have the budget, but
So
expand.
so I imagine lots of companies have cycles, and maybe a lot of those cycles align depending on the kind of company. When is the best and worst time to ask for sponsorship?
The worst time to ask for sponsorship is never. Always ask. Always ask. We have banks that the third quarter, the fourth quarter, some of them are kind of rushing to spend that money. Some of them have that use it or lose it budget. Um, Even in my book, I've said you always contact them. At any time is a good time. Let them tell you, well, our fiscal year is closed. We're opening back in January. Um, for banks, January again is a good time really to call them. Last third quarter, fourth quarter, and first quarter as well. Build a relationship with them. Take that no and use it to ask them when. Hold them accountable because they're telling you, hey, we don't have it now. Uh, Call us back or contact us at this date. So any time is good. I would say, 6 months minimum for larger budgets, to a year or more, because at times companies they allocate that budget for the following year. So you're like, you're late already, pretty much.
Mm.
Um, for example, I just reached out to a company for my client, and the person's like, "You're late." She's like, "You just missed it, but we can offer you this type of funding." And I'm like, "Oh, my client is not gonna like this type of funding at all." When And sure enough, I believe she said it was January, something like that, but it wasn't far ahead. She said, "Just give us a call back then." I'm like, "Okay, simple solution." So ask those questions, and it's never a bad time to contact a sponsor.
How does your approach vary when you are approaching a big company, and a medium-sized company and a small, shop, a small local business? Do you change your approach at all?
Not really. Other than how much money I'm asking for, no, not really. I treat it as a partnership. I look at it as people. I don't look at them as money. Going, "Hi, my name is Roberta. I have this event. I have your audience. This is how much it is. This is what I'm offering." And it's just rinse and repeat. Size really doesn't um matter who they are. It really doesn't matter. I just know that with corporate brands, I know that takes at times it takes a while because people change seat often. I don't know what's that's about, but they do when it comes to the sponsorship seats. Um, some departments phase out. Back in the day, might be the promotion department. Today's the marketing, community relation, etc. So to answer your question, which again I'm going to to remind me, um, yeah, it doesn't change. My approach doesn't change. My approach,
Mm,
it
mm.
really doesn't change. And I'm trying to think if there is something in there that I could honestly say that I do differently, but no, my sponsorship proposal, the size, whether it's a two-pager or 10 pages when we're using a lot of pictures, it doesn't change.
Hmm. Fascinating. Okay. What is something that only if you've done it and you've been in the trenches and you learned it the hard way effectively, that you learned about sponsorship that really can only be learned that way? It's not really, book knowledge and YouTube knowledge, and you can't just really like listen in and get it. You learned this by being in the trenches doing this work, and it was an irrefutable lesson you'd want to share with others.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely self-taught. When I started in the 90s, I learned the lingo. I was already selling, just learned the lingo. Um, no comes along with the entire process. Always ask when you get the no, always ask why. I think AI caught up on that part of it. Um, One thing for sure is still the language. Then I still cannot believe how much after all these years, I've been saying the same thing to know the language, that people are still using the wrong language. So, um,
And just make that, just I want you to recap that point real quick. What is the right and what is the wrong language? Just draw a real clear contrast between the right and the wrong language to be using when you're talking with corporate sponsors.
when you're talking to corporate sponsors, you want them to know that this is not a donation. So they don't put you into that department and then they treat you as though it's only a write off. Because when that happens, they are not listening to you any longer. You're out of here.
Mm,
You want to let them know this is a sponsorship. I have benefits for you. Don't be afraid of the rejection. Yes, you may get it, but once you know you're doing the right thing, it's okay. Move on. And you already have that contact. You could come back the following year and say the same thing all over again. So
mm,
the language is so important, especially now since grants have been cut by, is it millions or billions of dollars? Sponsorship is actually growing,
mm,
right? It's becoming more competitive. And the ones who will win is the ones that who know the language so you can have a meeting of the minds with sponsors. Now they are the cheat code is that we still have those sponsors that treat sponsorship as though it's a donation, and it's going to be your responsibility to correct them, to know how much of the money you can use as a donation versus a sponsorship. I've been saying that too for a long time now. As part of the IRS. They are saying it silently, not loud enough. But again, it's the process. You want to make sure your books as a nonprofit is clear and clean, just in case this is so important. Um, for example, if you are offering you want to either offer them marketing opportunities if it's sponsorship, or if it's a donation, you want to treat it as such. And I don't want to get too deep into a percentage of that sponsorship, then yes, you can use as a write-off. So they can only write off a portion, but not all of it. And that's something that I learned in the trenches. And it was just internalized how I learned it, because I thought to myself, listen, if this company is giving me money and they are writing it off and they are making it back on the write off, then why do I need to work my tush off to give them additional benefits for them to make more money? Why do I need to give them a lot of marketing opportunities for them to make more money? They are double dipping. So that's not fair when, especially when you're a small nonprofit and you need to focus on running the nonprofit and take care of your audience, your mission, your members, whomever. So you have to run around giving this sponsor all these great bells and whistles, and so they can make money, and they are writing it off too. So that didn't make sense to me. And then eventually now it is manifested that the IRS is like, yeah, no, you can't do that. The larger nonprofits, maybe they can get away with it, but the smaller ones, you just want to protect yourself. Everyone should protect yourselves, but you just want to make sure that you are doing the right thing. Something that's, let's see, what AI is not talking about. AI still is on the fence with that. If you were to go in and ask AI to write you a sponsorship proposal, they will throw those words in there like donation. You want to go back and check. That's still a big thing. All right. So what else have I learned? That AI cannot tell you.
One more key lesson, and then we're gonna wrap this train up.
One more key lesson is knowing how much of that money, how much of that funding you can use towards sponsorship. If you don't ask AI is not going to tell you that. But if you know it, like how you know it now, you're listening to Dan's show, then you now can go into AI and say, how much of this money can I use towards sponsorship and how much can I use towards donation to be IRS compliant?
Yeah, absolutely. That is your qualified sponsorship versus your advertising costs. So throw those terms in AI and we'll help you out. That is amazing. So, Roberta, pitch yourself real quick. If somebody's listening in to this show and they've really thought your insights were amazing and would love to learn more about you, where can they do that? And then after Roberta, I'm going to announce our next guest.
Absolutely. Dan, thank you for having me. I just would like to say that thank you for allowing me to come in here a little later. Just moving and that's one thing I would like to mention. At times unforeseeable things do happen within the sponsorship. Doesn't mean it's the end all. Have that open communication. It's a relationship. Things happen and you mend and you keep going. If it could be fixed, fix it. If not, it's okay. Move on. Okay. Uh, if you would like to learn more about my work, if you have questions before you send out your sponsorship proposal and you would like me to review it, you can reach me on my website at robertavigilance.com, which is my first and last name.com. Yes. And also I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn with my name as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Roberta. And I will talk to you immediately after the show. So I'm going to talk to the audience for a second. Thank you for listening in to the Friday Expert live stream. Again, you guys keep showing up. I'm going to keep doing these. So our guest next week is an amazing guest. This is Jocelyn Murray. She runs an advertising company that focuses on direct mail. And she's going to teach you how to take storytelling, put it into writing in a way in email and direct mail that donors are going to be excited to give you money for. So super excited for written storytelling coming up next week with Jocelyn Murray. As always, thanks for hanging out with me on the Friday Expert live stream. And I will see you guys next Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Signing off.